Hi, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for joining us for Carnaval, celebrating the great Afro-Latinx tradition in the Americas. My name is Professor Stephanie Golub. I'm the chair and associate professor in the political science department, and I am the director of the Initiative for the Study of Latin America, ISLA. And it is really with great joy and great pleasure that I welcome you here to this event this evening. The purpose of this event is to celebrate and honor the rich contributions made by the Afro-Latinx and Afro-Caribbean communities to our hemisphere and to global culture through the artistic expressions of Carnival. And I am just so delighted to see so many people in the Baruch community out today to come and to learn about Carnival and to enjoy and to appreciate this amazing event. So I would first of all would like to thank Daniela Toribio, who is ISLA's coordinator of student affairs, for representing ISLA on the Black History Month Planning Committee, because this event is in cooperation and in partnership with Black History Month. And so I want to give a shout out to the Black History Month Planning Committee and clubs, to KL, Sarah, Rianne, Daniela, Marielle, Zaria, Lena and Angela, Alex, Kareem, Gary, Ingrid, Andrew, Dr. Lewin, Professor Erica Richardson, Professor Hudson, and of course, to my partner in the Black and Latinx Studies Department, Dr. Shelley Eversley. Today's BLS open house was a triumph, and I am so thrilled that we have this great partnership between ISLA and BLS. I'd also like to thank Crystal Tejada, the Interim Associate Director of Student Activities and Diversity Initiatives, who's also is our partner on Latinx Heritage Month, and she is such a jewel and such a wonderful supporter of our students here at Baruch. I want to give a special thanks to our guest speakers, Professor Tshombe Miles and Professor Rojo Robles-Mejías from the Black and Latinx Studies Department, and Professor Gisele Regatão from the Journalism and Writings Professions Department. I also want to thank Harmony Osei, who is the Assistant Director of the Baruch College Honors Program, and Mercedes Paredes, who is President of ASEDOM. We have quite the lineup tonight of people who are going to talk about the history and the variations of Carnival, its political and social importance, and the way that it has been important to the identity of people in the hemisphere. So we hope that you enjoy our event this evening, and please feel free to submit your questions at any moment in the chat. Daniela Toribio will be receiving your questions and answering them, and putting out also some links as our speakers will be talking about different aspects of Carnival. So without further ado, I would want to turn the festivities, so to speak, the festivities tonight over to my colleague Gisele Regatão, and who will be talking to us now about the history of Carnival in Brazil, its origins, traditions, and local variations. It's such a pleasure to see you here today, Gisele. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I just love any ISLA event. I just love that ISLA exists, and so many of us from Latin America or Latin American lovers are here. Thanks so much for joining us. So I grew up in Brazil, as many of you know. I moved to the United States as an adult, and Carnival is really my favorite party. I grew up celebrating Carnival every year. I would dance for 5 days nonstop, and I really mean it. You dance during the day and you dance at night. And, you know, I wouldn't say every Brazilian loves Carnival, but in my family, we all really love Carnival. I have 3 sisters, and all of us are really passionate about Carnival. And it's something that we would do every year in different areas of the country. And here is actually a picture from the streets of São Paulo, which is the largest city in Brazil, where I grew up. And this one here on the corner is my youngest sister. So just to prove that we are really big Carnival people. So what I wanted to do today is just talk a little bit about the history of Carnival in Brazil, and specifically about the different areas of Brazil and how different areas of Brazil celebrate Carnival quite differently. So I think when we think about Carnival here in the United States, we always think about Rio, right? Rio is the largest, most famous celebration. It is a very beautiful, spectacular parade. And it is, according to the Guinness World Record, the largest carnival in the world. So we do have that title. And it attracts about 2 million people a year. So just to be clear, this year Carnival is not happening, of course, because of COVID. All celebrations have been canceled. But I wanted to start just showing, maybe for those who have never seen Carnival in Rio, how it looks like. So I'm going to be sharing my screen and showing different videos. Let's make sure this works. Oops. So this is Carnival in Rio. This is, if you know anything about Carnival, it's probably something like this that you would see. Let's stop playing. So I hope just with this clip, you can get a sense of how well produced this spectacle is, how sophisticated it is. So they are literally like trucks with people on top. But did you see people like rotating? And it's very, I mean, people spend literally a year preparing for this party. And there are different samba schools that present themselves. It's a huge contest. There is a lot of TV time. And it's also a large attraction for tourists in Brazil, of course. You can join one of the samba schools, and the costumes you pay between $500 and $1,000. So they're quite expensive for Brazilians. And it is like this huge celebration. But I want to talk a little bit about the history, like how we got here, and then again talk about the other areas in Brazil where it's actually my favorite carnivals. It's not in Rio. So interesting, Carnival actually came from the European tradition initially. Brazil was colonized by Portugal in the 1500s. And it was through the Italian celebration of the parties with masks that Carnival started as a party, part of the Catholic tradition, of course, 40 days before Easter. But it really became a popular party Brazil had a very large slave population, and certain cities, particularly in Rio and Salvador, Bahia, had a very large Black population. Actually, Brazil still has, many of you might not know, has a larger Black population than the United States. It's the largest Black population outside of Africa. So it was in the centers, Rio and Salvador, that really Carnival became a popular party. And it started in the late 19th century. And interesting, it was a woman, an older woman in her 50s, who wrote a first samba, a song for a samba school. So I just want to play a little bit of her song and talk a little bit about how that started.
Vou abrir alas, eu quero passar. Peço licença pra poder desabafar. A jardineira abandonou meu jardim, porque a rosa resolveu passar de mim. A jardineira abandonou meu jardim, porque a rosa resolveu passar de mim. Vou abrir alas, eu quero passar.
So that gives you a sense of kind of what samba sounded like in the late 19, this is from 1890. So samba really was born in Rio de Janeiro. Samba is the most famous, most traditional music of Brazil. And it was the beginning of Carnival as a popular party. So it started being more celebrated on the streets with music, live music, and people dancing. But in Rio, it's very much centered in samba. And in two other cities of Brazil that I want to talk about, they are very different. So one of them is Salvador, the capital of the state of Bahia. I would say it's my favorite city in Brazil. It is the the blackest city in Brazil. And this is how Carnival sounds like in Salvador, Bahia. So this is Olodum, is a very well-known percussion group from Salvador. And you guys might know their work from Michael Jackson, worked with them in one of his videos, They Don't Care About Us. So this is very much percussion based. It's a very different sound than samba. And also very much a popular party. This video was from downtown Salvador. It's a historical city, very beautiful city. So everybody just gathers on the streets, literally millions and millions of people that would follow Olodum. But then there are also huge trucks carrying people, playing live music with another kind of music that's called axé. So different area of the country, different kind of music, but still this kind of celebratory dancing on the streets, following different trucks with playing music. It's much less formal than Rio. There are no huge costumes. There are no fancy costumes. At the most, people wear like t-shirts and stuff, but it's like days of dancing during the day and at night. It doesn't stop. During the day, people go dancing, and at night, people go dancing nonstop. And then another of my favorite parties happened in another city in Olinda, which is in the northeast of Brazil. And I just want to show you a little bit of how that looks like, which is also, again, very different. This is the Michael Jackson video. And this is So this is, you can see how much less sophisticated it is than Rio, but there is all this folklore and culture associated with Carnival. People build these huge dolls that are part of the parade. You see live musicians performing and people, again, following the parade. And there's also this particular group that performs in Olinda, Recife, called Maracatu. Maybe Tshombe is going to talk a little bit about them because I know he knows a lot about them. But I just want to show a little bit how beautiful it looks and how different the sound is. Here is a little bit.
Bonito e nunca deixou de ser
E hoje eu trouxe a cambinda com muito amor e prazer. E hoje trouxe a cambinda com muito amor e prazer.
So here's a very quick tour around some of the most famous Carnival cities in Brazil. And just to give you a little taste of how different the party looks like, how different the sound is, the colors, the costumes, the traditions. And so even though it's celebrated throughout the whole country, it has very different flavor in each place. So just kind of a little overview and introduction. As I said in the beginning, of course, this year, Carnival is not being celebrated. It's a huge loss in the country. Everybody's mourning. All my friends keep posting pictures of them with glitter on their face, sitting on their couches, and people are dancing in front of the television. So it's definitely a huge loss and a huge mourn for the country, because Carnival is literally a way that people kind of forget about everything. And this year there is no forgetting about everything. But anyway, that's just a little taste. I look forward to hearing from my colleagues and then hearing your questions and also hearing about how you guys celebrate Carnival. I think you're muted, Stephanie.
Yes, I am. So sorry about that. Thank you so much, Gisele. Thank you. So our next speaker is going to be Professor Rojo Robles-Mejías from the Black and Latinx Studies Department, who's going to talk to us about Puerto Rico and the Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol in Puerto Rico, looking at the Afro-Caribbean cultural identity inclusion in Puerto Rican culture. So Rojo, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here with all of you. Today was a very cold day for all of us who are in New York. We were like really cold today, so talking about Carnaval and celebrating Carnaval virtually like make us warm. So I'm really happy to be here. And thank you for the invitation, Stephanie, and all the ISLA team, Daniela and everybody. So yes, I'm gonna be talking about Las Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol in Puerto Rico. I have a couple of notes and a couple of images that I want to show you, and also some clips from a very important docudrama that is called Nenen de la Ruta Mora, right? And also I have like some contemporary videos about like how people are celebrating the Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol these days, all right? So I'm gonna share my screen. So it says that I can't share my screen, Stephanie and Daniela. Maybe you can help me with that. Let me see. Oh, okay. Now I can. It's working. All right. Okay. Yeah. Here we are. Thank you so much for that technical help. All right. So in Puerto Rico, each municipality celebrates its Fiestas Patronales, patron saint festival. The festivities include religious processions, kioscos selling food and artesanías, cultural events, and performances. Although the processions in Las Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol originated as Catholic rites, just like Gisele was talking about, that common denominator of the European influence, in the Caribbean and Latin America. They are filled, with African traditions. In the case of Puerto Rico, Taino elements, the native indigenous people, and many other Caribbean cultural influences. Perhaps the patron saint festival that better captures Puerto Rico African heritage is Las Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol, as I was introducing before, in Loíza, in the town of Loíza. Yeah, San James or Santiago Apostles, so to get a little sense of what patron saint we're celebrating, it was one of the only three apostles whom Jesus selected to bear witness to his transfiguration. Yeah. Caribbean studies scholar Lowell Feet describes Las Fiestas de Santiago Apostol as a communal syncretic artistic event, right? With possible Yoruba and Bantu influences, right? So the African influence is very powerful in this particular festivity. Las Fiestas celebrate Santiago Apostol, who had become a saint that protects children, women, and the disenfranchised. Right, the celebration is a sign of creativity that combines bomba dance, and I will be showing you a little bit of bomba, culinary engagement, food, visual arts, masks, costume confection, and of course a carnival-like performance of people parading and dancing, just like we saw in Brazil, right? There are four main characters. This is really interesting because the Las Fiestas de Santiago Apostol have four main characters, right? One of them is El Vejigante, the other one is El Caballero, La Loca, and El Viejo, yeah? El Vejigante perhaps is the most iconic of all of them, yeah, and it's an Afro-Creole character that represents both the sacred and the profane, yeah, and signifies the sensual, the comic, and phantasmagoric, yeah. Cultural anthropologist Hilda Llorens explains that El Vejigante, and I'm going to quote her, yeah, is the most recognized signifier of Afro-Puerto Rican cultural traditions, yeah. His folkloric traits are not associated with suffering and enslavement, but rather with joy, dancing, playfulness, sexuality, and trickery. Far from representing a sorrowful rendition of the African in Puerto Rico, the Vejigante is exactly the opposite, right? Colorful, whimsical, and moody. El Caballero, yeah, and here we have the Vejigante, right? And this is a Vejigante mask. Yeah, and I forgot to like scroll down for you to see. These are pictures of El Vejigante, right? So I was talking here about El Vejigante, and here I'm also gonna be talking about El Caballero. El Caballero represents Santiago, the saint, right? He supervises the festivities, and he allows the intervention of African and popular elements in La Fiesta Cristiana, right? Lastly, we have La Loca. Here it is, La Loca. And El Viejo, who are social characters that create a satire and question sexual dynamics, racial and colonial violence. Yeah, they also challenge gender norms in what is now considered queer aesthetics and politics. Yeah, locas are cross-dressed queens of the festivities, while los viejos represent a colonial old white man looking for sexual pleasure with black women. Yeah, I want to show you a clip, yeah, of the documentary Nenen de la Ruta Mora, so we can see this character in action.
Ya el pueblo entero estaba tirado a la calle para la más grande de todas las fiestas, la que hace perder los sesos a blancos, negros y mulatos, albinos, grispos y jabaos, para la fiesta de Santiago, Santiago Apóstol, Santiago nuestro, Santiago de las mujeres, de los hombres y de los niños, que son tres, y en el fondo no es más que uno, Santiago Matamoro, señor de las guerras y los temporales, guardián del pescador, del picador de caña y el tumbador de coco, duro con el malvado, protector del pobre, amable con las mujeres y cariñoso con los nenes. El Santiago humilde que vino aquí a Loíza, bebió agua de la palmasola y se quedó para siempre, para gozar y sufrir con nosotros, asistirnos y consolarnos. Ese día de todos los barrios de Loíza vienen locas y vejigantes, viejos y caballeros, y corren todos a la iglesia a esperar la procesión de los tres santos.
So to illustrate a little bit of Las Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol, I just share a clip from the docudrama Nenen de la Ruta Mora. This docudrama was written and directed by Oscar Torres in 1955. Yeah, it's a very important film in the filmography of Puerto Rican cinema. Right, the film explores, of course, the Santiago Apóstol Festival through the friendship between a black boy, Nenen, the one that we saw in that clip, and Tshombe, Ave Gigante. Yeah, the documentary was created by La División de Educación a la Comunidad, also known as the DIVETCO, right? I want to give you a little context about the DIVETCO film unit who produced this film, and that actually is one of the most important documents about Las Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol in the first half of the 20th century. The DIVETCO film unit was created in 1941 and was part of a literacy and art education campaign promoted and financed by the government of the Partido Popular Democrático, or PPD, architects of the Estado Libre Asociado, or Commonwealth. Yeah, the Commonwealth political project was, and to a lesser extent still is, a populist enterprise that looked to reinforce democratic values in the country. It looked to build a modern capitalist state alongside, although always under the control of the US. At the same time, it looked to reinforce a new cultural nationalism, right, based on a supposedly harmonious mestizo or mixed race culture. Yeah, the DIVETCO film unit wanted to explore how the rural areas could serve as sites for a modern democratic society. Yeah, the pioneering DIVETCO film unit created film work on location, using local populations as actors and inspiration. That is the case, of course, of Nenen de la Ruta Mora, and the docudrama looked to insert. Yeah, it's a very important film because for the first time the narrative was changing, and the government was also including African customs and subjects into the discourses of Puerto Rican identity. Yeah, the first half of the film takes place in a village by the ocean in Loíza, and while looking for wood to cook, Nenen, the boy, meets a good-natured Gigante named Tshombe. After joking around, Nenen joins Tshombe on an adventure to celebrate Santiago, and Nenen then stays in the picture as an informal guide, that moves freely through the festivity. I want to show another clip from the film. All right, let me get to it. So that is the procession, the main procession that goes around town, celebrating Santiago Apóstol. Yeah, the next sequence after this one shows a bombazo. Yeah, in it, the film narrators describe La Bomba, right, as a musical response to everyday pain. He described it as a way to feel the African blood flowing inside your body, and also as a tactic to feel good and make things better. Right, the narrator avoids any colonial and political interpretation. In other words, he does not mention how during Spanish colonial times, La Bomba allowed enslaved people to communicate among themselves and organize rebellion. So there's a political aspect to La Bomba to this day. Also to this day, La Bomba creates strong community ties. There are complex musical dynamics present in La Bomba, such as the challenge and connection between the drummer and the dancer. In La Bomba, the dancer engages in a series of movements and intricate gestures to which the main drummer provides a synchronized beat. In other words, the drummer follows the dancers, creating a performance of connectivity and kinship, right? I want to share now a recent video from the festivities. This is from a couple of years ago, to show how the bombazo, that is such an important part of Las Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol, continue, and how people nowadays still follow the tradition of the bombazo. Las Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol, when this I'm gonna wrap up my presentation, are central to Puerto Rico's modern Black communities. And just like Carnavales, Las Fiestas bring people together for collective enjoyment. They allow also for Black representation. Puerto Rican film history gives us insight into the way these festivities have evolved. The docudrama Nenen de la Ruta Mora in particular led us, 21st century audiences to understand the festivity and the Afro-Puerto Rican imaginary. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rojo. That was really amazing. Our next speaker is Professor Tshombe Miles, who's going to speak about Carnival as a political protest for African descendants in Brazil. So it's a really great follow-on to our conversation, Rojo, about national identity and also the importance of this art form in expressing it. Okay, thank you so much. And Tshombe, take it away.
Okay, as Gisele pointed out, and do I have the two clips? Is Daniela there?
I believe you're a co-host.
Yes. Oh.
I will put it, I can share the screen right now.
Thank you, Daniela.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so as Gisele pointed out, you know, Brazil has a very a wide tradition of Carnival. And if you look at a map of Brazil, you'll see that it's obviously it's a huge country. And so, you know, if you look there, you could see Gisele talked about Rio, which is all the way in the south, right? And she talked about Salvador, and then she talked about Olinda, but Recife is the other Carnival that are probably the most famous, right? So those three carnivals are very famous, and they're all very different. And of course, Carnival is not just practiced in those three places is actually practiced all over Brazil. So what I want to talk about is a very specific case in Fortaleza, Carnaval, which has a very specific, practice that is not common throughout the rest of Brazil, at least not in the same way that it is in Fortaleza. And that is the usage of blackface, right? Is the usage of people painting themselves black. And as you can imagine, for people of African descent, not just in the United States, but actually even in Brazil, this can cause quite a stir. Also, what's fascinating about this is that it is a maracatu ceremony that is being performed in blackface. And originally, it used to be performed within the context of just all male performers. So you had the crowning of the king and queen. And the crowning of the king and queen tradition goes all the way back to the Congo, or what today is known as Angola. And there was a lot of sort of protests and kind of debates about this in recent years. And in 2017, actually, so-called militants or people from the Black movement of Brazil and, from Bahia, actually made a big stink. They came to Fortaleza and they said, why are you guys wearing blackface? This is offensive to people of African heritage. And then what was interesting, in these performances, actually the people of Ceará, Fortaleza in particular, the biggest city in Ceará, said, wait a minute, why are you guys protesting us, right? You don't really understand the history of this. You don't understand what this is all about. And so this kind of conflict actually really shows a kind of really interesting way in understanding of how people have dealt with racial identity, politics of racial identity. Also, there's questions of authenticity, right? Who gets to perform what and how that happens. And what you see if you study the history of Maracatu, what you see is that this celebration is celebrated in places like Recife, in Fortaleza. And in fact, the people of Fortaleza have often said that they got Maracatu from Olinda. So it is often thought that the origins of Maracatu comes from Olinda. But in actuality, what researchers have found out, and looking through the chronicles, there's various writers from the 19th century and 20th century that wrote like what was going on around them. And if you actually do the reading, you see, these people living at that time talking about the fact that you have Maracatu celebrations within the Catholic Church within Brazil in the 19th century. And specifically, you see these celebrations through the Black Men of Rosary, which was a brotherhood. In Catholicism, there's a lot of brotherhoods, right? But there were very specific brotherhoods that were geared to people of African ancestry, right? So this is sort of a precursor to what finally results into this image here where we see of a blackface Maracatu celebration. But of course, in the 19th century in Fortaleza and throughout Ceará, these Maracatu, or what becomes Maracatu celebrations, are not performed, obviously, in blackface. So how does this happen? Why are they practicing this kind of carnival in blackface? Well, by the end of the 19th century in Fortaleza, the Catholic Church has always had a kind of a problem with these African manifestations, decided to do something about it. So in 1879, they outlawed the batuque, the drums, and they actually outlawed marching and having these processions within the context of Fortaleza. And so what these guys do to maintain these traditions is actually, this is when we have documentation of the blackface actually coming about. So there's at this time, you're gonna have heavy persecution of people performing. So they decide one of the ways they can sort of avoid this is by blackening their faces. And on the one hand, that will not allow people to see who their identity is. But on the other hand, it reinforces the idea of promoting a kind of blackness, right? And so this goes on until around 1936, when you sort of have an institutionalization of blackface performances in Carnival. And what's interesting about this is, if you guys want to go later on YouTube and look at Maracatu, you could maybe put blackface in and look at some of the performances, you'll see that the rhythms of the Maracatu performances during Carnival is very different than what you see in Pernambuco, for example, and other parts of Brazil. It becomes its own kinds of celebration, right? And so that happens, 1936 until more recent times, when you start to have this concentration of, like, again, why are people in blackface? Why are they performing themselves? And you start to have discussions in the Movimento Negro, and this is when you have this face-off sort of from these guys from Bahia and Fortaleza. And a comrade of mine by the name of Hilario Ferreira, who's actually a main participant in the celebrations of Maracatu, told me something very interesting. He told me that he was one of the first folks to say actually that he wanted to move away from a blackface performance. But then on the other hand, he said, you know what though, Tshombe, I don't have any disrespect for those who want to perform this Maracatu in blackface, because it's not the same thing as how you imagine it in the United States. It has a very different history, right? So I thought that was a very interesting understanding of it, and really is the way in which the vast majority of Cerensians understand it, and particularly Cerensians who are self-affirmed as Black, who consider themselves and see themselves as Black, like Hilario, but many of his colleagues who decided that they continue in this tradition. So he said, though I think it's sort of antiquated, I think we should continue, right? So I think this points out to how these celebrations and these performances are lit with all kinds of politics behind them. And one other thing, though, I want to point out is that there are cases in Brazil of mainly white elites who perform in blackface with a very specific idea of dehumanizing or disrespecting Afro-Brazilians. And that is not the same thing as what these guys are attempting to perform. So again, what you see is a kind of a battle, if you will, about how people are fighting for their identities and how to represent the nation on one hand, but also how they're representing their various identities and so on. And again, it opens up a lot of questions about authenticity, about how things can be represented, how things should not be represented, and the politics behind it. So I think I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Wow, this is very, very interesting, and I'm sure that we are going to get a lot of questions for you from everybody here about that. Every history is so complex, right? And cultural practices too. So thanks so much, Tshombe. Really fascinating. So we have two special guests here this evening to also speak about their experiences with Carnival. So I'd like Harmony Osei to speak now. She is at the Baruch College Honors Program, and she's going to talk about Carnival, the way she celebrates Carnival in Brooklyn. So Harmony, will you take it away?
So I just want to start off with saying, some of you, I live in Brooklyn in Crown Heights. And so the carnival that I know is the West Indian Day Labor Day Parade. And it's the biggest Caribbean carnival in the US. And so this parade is held every year on Labor Day. And if you know, there's about 2 to 3 million people that show up to this amazing carnival each and every year. And these are some photos that were taken at the carnival. And so you'll see that there are exquisite outfits. You'll see the picture on the right that there's tons of people that are there. There's amazing headpieces. You'll also see steel pan bands there as well. And so this is an amazing carnival that happens 2 blocks from my house on Eastern Parkway. And so if you're familiar with Brooklyn, the best borough, you'll know that this starts about on Ralph and Schenectady, and it goes down to Grand Army Plaza. And this parade is usually about from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it was started by West Indians living in Harlem in the 1930s. And if you remember, going way back, connecting this to the time when unfortunately people were brutally enslaved, and this is, Black History Month, a lot of us are connecting back to our African roots, you'll know that people who are enslaved, their culture and their customs were ripped from them. And so they were not able to really participate in those different celebratory balls and different parties that were happening. And so they secretly did that. But then also, once they were emancipated and they were freed, then they did perform and have these exquisite different types of celebrations. And so these are some photos of the Brooklyn Labor Day West Indian Day Parade, and you will see people there from all of the Caribbean. You'll see people from Guyana and Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, so many amazing places. And the history of this carnival is that it originated in the 1930s in Harlem. It used to be in February, and then it was inside, and then it became an outside parade in the 1940s. And in the 60s, it moved to Brooklyn when they lost their permit to perform in the streets in Harlem. And so you will see amazing costumes that are here. Many of them take over a year to prepare. You'll see steel pans, as I mentioned, music. So there will be soca, calypso, reggae will be playing throughout the street. You can buy any of your flags on the parkway, as we call it. And also they have some of the best food. So I love where I live because of the music, the culture. You can get some jerk chicken, you'll get a beef patty with cocoa bread, oxtail, rum punch they'll be selling on the parkway. And also you'll see here at the bottom, before you have the Labor Day Parade, there's Juve. And so Juve means daybreak. And generally Juve is kind of the pretext to the Labor Day Parade that happens. And so you do see people here wearing horns and also with paint on them. So you just throw paint around, powder. It's just a huge celebration. And usually that goes from 6 to 11 into the start of the parade. But quite honestly, when I was growing up, we started celebrating from midnight. So we were basically out from midnight partying until the end of the day. And it was just a celebration of freedom, your cultural identity, community. And so often you see information on the news about violence and different things that happen at these different celebrations. And so as an Afro-Latina, as someone who is connected to my African roots, as well as my Latina background, I just wanted to show you the things that aren't shown on TV and how beautiful Carnival can be. So I'm just gonna play a short video, about a minute and a half, so that you can see the Carnival that I've attended my entire life growing up. So that's just a little piece of my carnival that I celebrate in Brooklyn that is amazing. I'm also familiar, as I mentioned, I'm Puerto Rican amongst many other things, and I've been to Brazil. So I'm honored to be able to share with you today my carnival experience, and so happy to hear about everyone else's as well.
Thank you so much. Really, I mean, there's some comments on the chat. Everyone's just going bananas. We're all hungry. We all want to dance. We all want to be together. We can't wait. Well, this is really something to look forward to, right? I mean, I don't know if we're going to be there by September, but wow, that's sort of nice to feel that looking forward to. I'm sure the next time that everyone gathers, it's going to be unbelievable. It's going to be unbelievable. So thank you so much. Harmony, thanks for sharing that with us. And our last speaker this evening is Mercedes Paredes, who is who's from ASEDOM, who's the president of ASEDOM. And she's going to talk to us about Carnival in the Dominican Republic. So Mercedes, please, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much. So as Professor Golub said, my name is Mercedes, and I'm the president of ASEDOM, the Dominican Student Association here at Baruch College. And I'll just show a quick presentation of like what Carnival is to us. So let me present. So this is just a sneak peek because ASEDOM actually has a Carnival event March 4th, dedicated to all things Carnival, music, learning about the history, all of the different things that the Dominican Republic does to celebrate Carnaval. And history says that Carnival stems back all the way to the 1500s, and it was in correlation with Lent, Catholic religion, and it actually has steered away from that a bit. It actually is just about celebrating Independence Day, which is February 27th. During the whole month of February, Dominican folkloric traditions are revealed through the costumes, the masks, the mystical characters, the storytelling. And I think what makes it so special is that all of the different traditions and the costumes are just as diverse as the country's population. So some of the masks that we'll be speaking about at Carnival are La Vegas Diablo Cojuelo, Los Máscaros de Puerto Plata, Los Pintados de Barahona, Los Culoyas de San Pedro de Macorís, and Los Lechones de Santiago. And here in the bottom, you have a few pictures of each of these. So this second picture is Los Máscaros de Puerto Plata, and it's actually a compilation of Taíno and masks, so Thai Máscaro. So Taíno, African, and Spanish descent, having a lot of like beads, and the costume takes almost a year to bring. And then here at the end, we have our traditional Santiago, which is one of the biggest one of the biggest celebrations with their Diablo Cojuelos and their lechones. So just to show you the whole map of the Dominican Republic and where these cities and provinces are. So La Vega is right here kind of at the center, Santiago right next to it. Then we have Puerto Plata, which is in the north. Then we have San Pedro de Macorís, which is very close to Santo Domingo, which is the capital, in the south. And then we have Barahona. So during Carnival, we'll be able to see all of the different north, south, southwest, and east, how African, Spanish, and Taino cultures have, you know, influenced all of our different traditions. And I'll just end it with a quick video to show you kind of like what it's like to be in DR during Carnival. Oh wait, I think I need, can you hear it? You can't hear it, right? Because I think I need to share my screen with sound. Let me just try it again.
Te iba a dar una trompa, coño, que te iba a borrar el chi. El diablo, coño. Yo lo mismo llamar al diablo que no lo llega.
Yeah, and as you can see, this is very children friendly. Even, you know, children and young adults dress up as the mascaros, and it's very nice to see how families come together to celebrate their culture. So yeah, so lastly, I just like to give a little plug. Like I said, March 4th from 6 to 9, Afro-Latinx is having a carnival event. We'll be giving away these two very traditional Dominican pieces. So this is a Diablo Cojuelo, and then this is a guira, which is used in the music and at our carnivals. So if you would like to win one of these, make sure to show up.
Thank you so much. And, you know, we will be also, follow them on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. We'll be helping them promote and be very exciting to come to your event. Wow, this sounds great. We all are, I saw someone saying they want to hop a flight to the DR. We are all wanting to come and join. Sounds fantastic. We're at the 7 o'clock moment, but do we have any questions or that we can, I'm not sure if there are any questions in the chat. Anybody would like to have a quick say about something before we wrap it up? It's so great to have so many people here at the event, and I can't see everybody, so.
Professor Gall, we
Yes.
have a question from Professor Frasciato for Professor Robles.
Thank you.
He says, can you share a comment of reference of the marriage in the feast? And are they inherited from anti-marriage feeling from pre-colonial Spain, reference like Maratunes, Villa de Moros, or La Ruta Mora?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Indeed, Santiago Apostol is also known as El Matamoros, and it's very interesting because in Spain it's a saint celebrated because of La Reconquista, the moment in which right? They kick out, right, the Moros, right, the Arabs, yeah, and it's very interesting the way, right, the figure once on a Creole setting, the Creole setting of Puerto Rico, and a Creole in a different, like under different circumstances, the saint, yeah, Santiago Apostol, suddenly becomes the opposite of that idea of killing Moros or killing Africans. Yeah, suddenly the saint becomes actually the protector of Black people, the protector of women, the protector of children, the protector, right, of marginalized people everywhere. So it's very interesting the way that within, yeah, Puerto Rican culture, the Santiago Apostol, the significance of Santiago Apostol is flipped, yeah? And suddenly he becomes a saint that it protects Black people, right, and protects the people in need, right? So it's the opposite sense of that idea of killing Moros, or the idea of kicking people out or excluding people, yeah, from a territory. So it becomes the other side of the coin in Puerto Rico.
Thank you. That was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much. Well, Daniela, are there any other questions that are in the chat?
No, we don't have any more questions.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our fantastic speakers. I want to thank Professor Robles and Professor Regatão and Professor Miles, and I want to thank Mercedes, and I want to thank Harmony Osei from the honors program. I want to thank everybody for being with us this evening to really get a chance to really celebrate. I really felt as Rojo was saying, this is, you know, Merry February from the snow. You know, we're feeling the warmth and feeling the community, the feeling of sharing the joy and sharing these wonderful experiences together. And I really got that feeling from this, is the real connection that's built through this wonderful tradition. So I want to remind you also that ISLA it has lots of events coming up. We have 2 next week. We have another event that we are partnering with Black History Month, with a Black History Month organizing committee called Success in Giving Back: The Black Experience in the Workplace. That will be Tuesday, February 23rd from 6 to 7 p.m. And Daniela will put a link in the chat, the registration link. And then next Thursday, we're going to have a Fulbright Opportunities in Latin America and the Caribbean meeting for students. We want, you know, this is February, we've called February El Porvenir, the Futures Month, because we want everyone to be thinking about the future. This event definitely got us thinking about the future and how much we're going to treasure being able to celebrate together again. And so this event, Valerie Hymas from the Fellowships Office, we want to get everybody excited and thinking about the future of opportunities to teach and to study and do research in Latin America, funded by Fulbright. So that's next Thursday, February 25th from 5 to 6 p.m. And so please, Danielle also put a link in the chat. And so thank you everybody so much for this wonderful event.
I came to pick up some medicine.
So anyway, thanks to everybody, and we look forward to seeing you